For those who are new, welcome. For those who have been here already, thanks for staying. Now, let's dive into today's topic. Forza Horizon maps 1 through 5. The long-awaited map comparison video series is here. Doing this has been on my list going back a few months, going back to when I did the highway video. I had started working on notes for this series back then a little bit here and there, and now we are finally getting the video series. I was also debating on how I would do this comparison video. Would I compare map to map, map to real world locations? And honestly, we're going to end up doing a little of both. The main videos will be real world to game map. The last video in this series, I'll be comparing each map to the next game. So starting with Horizon 1, we'll then compare it to Horizon 2, and Horizon 3, and Horizon 4, and Horizon 5, and opinion-based decide which map they did the best. Like, there's going to be a lot of back and forth, and it's going to be great. So, sit back and relax as we explore these maps. We are in part 2 of this series where we are looking at the maps of Forza Horizon. That means we're looking at the north of Italy and the south of France. Kind of. So starting now on the Italian side of the map, we're starting with probably my favorite part of the whole map. Starting in the town of Castelletto on the in-game map. In real life, it is a district in the city of Genoa. Fun fact, I've spoken here and there about being part Italian. Well, Genoa is roughly the area that my family is connected to. So having this on the map, really special for me. So yeah, this area is just a district of Genoa based on the research I can find. So moving north, we have the in-game city or town, whatever, of San Giovanni. In-game, San Giovanni is a walled city. There are only a handful of walled cities left in Italy based on what my research gives me. However, the most famous city that is walled in Italy is the city of Lucca. Lucca was even featured on an episode of Top Gear back when Clarkson, May, and Hammond were running the show. In my research, I did find that there were a couple towns in Italy that were walled and shared the name of San Giovanni, but it was San Giovanni and then a regional name. I cannot find one, though, that has enough similarities to this in-game location to say that's the one. So in the northeast, we have the town or village of Montilino. This location, the closest I could find is a town called Montello. It is in northern Italy, and the developers may have drawn inspiration from it. If you look just south of this village, there is an area called Zona Industriale, or directly translated to Industrial Zone. When I looked at Montello on Google Maps, there is right there in the middle, Zone Industriale Montello. So coincidence that they put this area just below their village of the similar name? Yeah, not likely that being a coincidence. So, if we look up to the lake area at the northern side of the Italian half of the map, there's a castle-like structure there labeled Tenuta Montelino. So, based on research, Tenuta is the Italian word for estate and is usually used in the context of wineries and vineyards. So generally, if you see the word Tenuta in context with another name, it's just talking about a winery. In this case, though, if we look up the term Tenuta Montelino, or if we're going with the real world Montello, there is a vineyard winery B&B, Tenuta Montanello B&B. This is the closest representation we have to this that I can find that is even remotely a similar name to what we have on the map. However, I am not sure if this is what the developers were referencing, but this is the closest I can find. So we'll just go with it. I would honestly still like to know from the developers what their actual inspiration for the Italian side was, because there is just a lot going on there without hardly anything being there at all. And the way they did their names is kind of weird. Now, let's focus on the French side of the map. But first, if you think my limited Italian and trying to pronounce the names was rough, I know even less French. So, my apologies if even still I mispronounce stuff. So we're going to start off looking at Nice, which I'm pretty sure I am pronouncing right. So Nice was the first major real-world city featured in a Forza Horizon game. It is not a true one-to-one representation, but rather an interpretation of the city. I do not think we will ever see a true one-to-one representation of any real-world city in a video game like Forza Horizon. However, I do feel that based on what I've seen from Google, whether it's maps or images, or when I'm seeing video content from Nice, I do feel they got the right vibe and the right representation of city layout and architectural design pretty darn good for this game. Some stuff may not be perfect, but the developers, I'm sure, did the best of their ability, and I know they've only gotten better over the years. So moving our way around the map, we find ourselves looking at Abbey des Vaux de Chernay. Again, I apologize if I mispronounced that name. Doing my best here. I feel like in trying to pronounce it, I did a better shot at pronouncing it than the developers did making it. In-game, this whole area is one big set of ruins that you can drive through. Compared to the real-life location of the same name, which is in northern France, not even remotely south, but far in the north, the real-world location is vastly different from this. In real life, It is basically a super, super, super luxury resort with fine dining, some spas, and lush looking suites. Like, to call it a resort isn't even doing it justice. Like, it is basically a French chateau in a very intimate location. It is very big yet small at the same time. And based on what I'm seeing of it from photos, not even photos or Google can do this place absolute justice. The real life location is absolutely stunning. Like, it's so magnificently beautiful that if I ever had the chance to go there, I would feel out of place because it is so luxurious. However, I digress, as they at least used a real name on the French side of the map here, outside of Nice. But moving on in that same trajectory of using real-world names, directly north of the Abbey is the city of Sisteron. Sisteron, at least, is in the southern area of France in real life, and is laid out very similarly to how it is laid out in this game. This game, though, I do not feel does the real location the justice it really deserves. Based on what I have seen from our friends at Google and other videos of it, the real location of Sisteron is absolutely stunning. If the developers were to ever do a remake of this game, and they included a bigger version of Sisteron, I would really think it'd be appreciated if they included the Citadel de Sisteron, as it is this really interesting building on top of the hill overlooking the city itself. So if we keep moving back around the map, we come across the area of Saint Martin. Now then, Saint Martin, most people will think of the island in the Caribbean. However, there is a real place in France with the name of Saint Martin. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, it is Saint Martin de Belleville, and it is a town that is in the French Alps, in the southern area of France, that if the developers are looking for the game to be set only in summer, like this game was originally supposed to be, I feel they could have done a better job with representing this town. Because in-game, this area is not much of anything. Like, if you look at the real city, or real town, if you will, yeah, it's not that big, but it's distinct enough that I feel the developers missed the mark on how they included it. I feel they could have done a lot better. I just feel like this area of the map was a bit of an afterthought. But given that they made this game in roughly 2 years, I guess there are some parts of the map that would end up being an afterthought, sadly. If that is not the case, and the developers would like to elaborate on what the reasoning behind this area on their map was, I'd love to talk to them about it, as well as other parts of this map and some of the other maps, because I'm very curious about this from a game development point of view. When recreating parts of the real world, how do you decide what to use, what not to use, and why you represent something in a certain way? keeping in mind this is only the second map made from this, at the time, new game series, I'm glad the developers included as many real-world locations as they did on their map. Not all locations on this map use their real names, and some locations use a real name and are not represented correctly, in my opinion. And this does frustrate me a bit, but at least it made researching for this map a lot easier. The areas that they did not use an absolute nail it on the real map location, I'm looking at you, Italy, with this one. That did frustrate me, because the French side, at least as far as looking up the names go, so easy. So easy. The Italian side, we need a little help over there. But given this game was made in, call it 2 years, because Horizon 1 came out in 2012, this game came out in 2014. That's a quick turnaround, and considering how many advances they made from the first game to the second game, I cannot fault them too much on map design. And as I've said earlier in the video, I do feel this game is due for a full remake. And if they did do a full remake, I would love for them to use more real-world locations and name them correctly. Also, trying to say that this game is strictly the north of Italy and the south of France, if that is the case, make sure all your locations actually are that. Because to find locations that don't really fit that is really frustrating when that was your marketing for this game. So again, I hope you've enjoyed the exploration of this map using in-game footage, Google Maps, Google Map images, overlays. You get the idea. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I apologize for the names that I may have, to put it politely, not said correctly. I'll work on it for the future when it comes to probably Horizon 5, and when we do it, the map of Horizon 6. Because Horizon 5 is Mexico, and my Spanish, not great. The map of Japan, I actually know a little more Japanese than I do French, Italian, and Spanish put together. So I'll have an easier time at pronouncing those names, I think. So again, I do apologize for the names I completely screwed up. Until next time, roll those dice, move that bishop, and collect 200 after passing go.